peeps. Today, we're going to talk about age differences in dating. Join the Journey Radio starts right now.
Maverick to range control. Entering Point Alpha. Confirm green range.
Maverick, range control. Green range is confirmed. I don't see an event scheduled for you, sir.
Well, I'm going anyway.
Nice.
I get all excited. I'm like JoJo, the idiot circus boy with a pretty new pet.
Excellent!
No different. Only different in your mind. You must unlearn what you have learned.
Are you mocking me?
We don't want you to get ruffled. Let's just say I was agreeing with you in a totally unusual way.
Remember, all I'm offering is the truth.
You can't handle the truth!
Now, do you need me to elaborate? Or can we just crack on?
And here we go.
Hit it!
Welcome to the infusion of positive energy into the lives of single Latter-day Saints everywhere. This is Joy in the Journey Radio.
And welcome back, peeps, to the wonderful, splendiferous, joyous episode of Joy in the Journey Radio. I'm Lance, your host for Joy in the Journey Radio, and this that you're watching right now is episode number 444. Got 444. Does age really matter? If you're watching the program live, please join the chat. Let us know where you're watching the program from. If you are watching it after the fact, then go ahead and leave a comment down below the video. That will help us with the algorithms to push our content out to more and more people everywhere. Okay, peeps, I've been saying for a while now that some changes are in store, and today we're going to introduce one of the changes that is coming to Join the Journey Radio in 2026. So we have here, I'm proud to introduce the first of several changes that you're going to be seeing. We have the return of the World of Ted. I love that intro. Yeah, I've always loved it since the first moment I put it together. Yes, Ted, truly enjoyable dating. Welcome to the world of Ted. Every time I say Ted, I'm thinking like Bill and Ted. I don't want to say something like 69, dude. Be excellent to each other and party on, dude. I'm totally an 80s child, if you can't tell. I'm sorry. Your skills should not need to be that adept to tell. I'm a total 80s child. So so today we're going to talk about age differences and looking at age differences in dating, and from the perspective of LDS singles, and more specifically from the perspectives that we try to give here on Join the Journey Radio to help LDS singles thrive in their singles life, no matter how long that singles life may be. So to help us out here, I have an article, and one of the reasons why the world of Ted actually fell off the radar is because I ran out of like LDS centered dating articles. I've just been looking for them online like nobody's business, and they're just not, they just don't pop up very frequently. And so I've decided to do away with that restriction, I guess you'd call it. If one comes along, I'm happy to highlight it, but I'm not going to let the absence of any LDS-based dating articles prevent me from this. I mean, this is just a wonderful segment of the program. Now, earlier when I had like individual episodes, and it was actually an alternative program to Join the Journey Radio, and maybe it'll grow back to be like that. But for right now, I just decided, let's just make this a regular segment of the program. So normally when I start the program, I have like a little monologue. And today I decided, since we're reintroducing the world of Ted, I'm just going to do away with that monologue, and we're just going to dive in here. So I had the article that I found the other day. Let's see if I can pull this up. So I was reading it on Medium, and oh, you are beautiful. All right. So I found this article on Medium, and I read it, and I thought, oh, this would be good to use to reintroduce the world of Ted with. So let's dive into this. Now, before we actually get into the meat and potatoes of the article here, I want to remind everyone in the audience that what we're about to read is written from the perspective of the natural man. And here on Join the Journey Radio, we've talked previously, like I can't tell you how many times, about the need to distinguish between the covenant mindset and the natural mindset. So what we're going to read here is the natural mindset. Now, this has application to LDS singles because, as I've said, unfortunately, countless many times, I say it's unfortunate, not because I've had to say it so many times, although that is itself unfortunate, but I say it's unfortunate because it's true, and I wish it weren't. The truth is that the vast majority of LDS singles allow the natural mindset to drive their dating decisions. So we're not making dating decisions based on an eternal perspective. We're making dating decisions based on the perspective of life here and now and mortality. And while some of that I think is okay, I think most of us don't have a sense of propriety, and we just take it to the extreme, and we don't even think about it because it just comes naturally. And that's why it's called the natural man and the natural woman. So in our efforts to gain the covenant mindset, we need to put off the natural man, put off the natural woman. And there's a formula for that, which is described in Mosiah 3:19, three-step formula. We've talked about that here on the program. I can't tell you how many times. So, there's that. So as we go through the article today, I just want to preface it by saying, what we're going to be reading here is written by somebody who has the total natural mindset, like zero covenant mindset at all. Okay. So here we go. Scientists found an unexpected perfect age gap that may help couples build stronger relationships. If that's not a clickbait title, I don't know what is. All right, here we go, peeps. The debate over whether age gaps affect long-term relationships is probably as old as marriage itself. On one hand, we often hear that when love is real, age is just a number. Age is just a number. How many times have you heard that? On the other hand, real life shows that a large age difference can create very practical problems. Different lifestyles, different interests, different energy levels, and sometimes a simple inability to fully understand each other. Now, keep in mind, what he's saying right here is it's not untrue, right? But it's also based on the assumption that the relationship is going to be built on just people being themselves. And so if the relationship works and people are just being themselves, and that means there's a fit between the two parties. And I'm not opposed to fit, but at the same time, I harken back to a story that I've told here before on the program. I feel I should tell it again. My father told me once about an experience he had listening in on a conversation that his grandmother was having with somebody, and I can't remember who she was talking with, but they were talking about the fishing trip that my great grandmother had just gone on with her husband. And my father was listening in on the conversation, and he, at length, he just interrupted because he couldn't understand. He's like, "But Grandma, you don't like fishing. Why are you with Grandpa all the time when he goes fishing, and you don't like fishing?" And my great grandmother looked at my father and said, "I wasn't there for the fish. She was there to be with him. She was there. I mean, her natural inclination was to stay as far away from the fishing trip as she could get. But because she loved my great grandfather, she wanted to be with him no matter what they were doing. And so it didn't matter that he wanted to do something that she didn't want to do. That, the important thing for her was being with him. And so, when I read this paragraph here, it says, on the other hand, real life shows that a very large age gap can create very practical problems, different lifestyles, different interests, different energy levels, and sometimes a simple inability to fully understand each other. That's true if you just let things play out, right? Like, you're not actually making conscious choices to give up what you want in behalf of what the other person wants. And a large measure of success in relationships is about putting someone else's needs and desires above your own. So, yeah, it's like I said, just take this with a grain of salt. I mean, from one perspective, what he's saying is not untrue. I mean, it does create more challenge, but at the same time, a lot of the success that you have is what you decide to do together with respect to those challenges. So, is there such a thing as the ideal balance? Let's talk about age gap. An age gap that gives a couple the best chance of building a stable, harmonious, lasting relationship. Now, this is an interesting word here, chance. What we're talking about here are probabilities. And again, it's with that mindset of we're just going to let the natural man or the natural woman play themselves out. Okay? The covenant man and the covenant woman come in, and of course, the defining attribute of the covenant man or the covenant woman is placing one's priorities on making and keeping sacred covenants. The rules above everything, right? So that's the covenant man and the covenant woman. And I just feel like I need to clear that up because some people might get confused. They think that the covenant man or the covenant woman is simply someone who's active in church. And that's far from what I'm talking about here when I say covenant man and covenant woman. So we're looking at people who, that mindset of putting your covenants, making and keeping sacred covenants above all else. So is there such a thing as the ideal balance, an age gap that gives a couple the best chance? So we're dealing with probabilities here. Researchers and sociologists have taken this question seriously, and according to large-scale research published in Population and Economics, the answer is not just theoretical. After analyzing data from thousands of real couples, researchers found a clear pattern. A certain age gap between partners may make it easier for couples to navigate crises and maintain marital satisfaction over time. In other words, given the natural mindset, there's probability of success, right? So the bigger you put the age gap, the lower the probability of success goes. So where is that probability maximized? What age gap? Let's break it down. So first, why do men often choose younger women while women may be drawn to older men? Oh, that's easy. Let's see what I got my answer. Let's see what he says. Young women are rarely lining up to date a broke 22-year-old man with no experience, no stability, no home of his own, and no real idea of what he's doing with his life. Of course not. It's obviously not, because That type of man can't help a woman feel what she wants to feel. And that's the basis upon which, that's the major basis upon which the natural woman is making her dating decisions. Can you help me feel what I want to feel? Well, if you're broke, then I'm not going to be able to feel the financial security that I want to feel in my life. No experience. Oh, gee, okay. You can't make me feel what I want to feel there. No stability. Oh, we're always up in arms. So again, no security, no home of his own. That suggests something. No real idea of what he's doing with his life. So you're not going to take me anywhere. So I'm always going to feel lost and wondering what's next. Now, see, you're not helping her feel what she wants to feel. In the same way, many single men over 45 are not suddenly dreaming of dating a woman their own age if they have the chance to date someone younger, more energetic, and physically attractive. And that's true too. That makes sense because, again, the natural mindset is all about, for men, it's all about youth and beauty. That's the natural mindset. So that's what gets prioritized. And who gives a rat's rear end about keeping sacred covenants when, you can take your pleasure now. So that's, again, natural mindset. There's no need to overcomplicate this. A lot of it comes down to biology. Again, that's where the natural mindset comes from. It's a biological hardwiring that's placed within men and women. It has expressions. It has different expressions in men and women, but it's similar hardwiring in each. Men often respond strongly to youth, beauty, health, and signs of fertility. This is an ancient mechanism existed long before civilization, the internet, modern conversations about conscious relationships. That is why successful men in their 40s, 50s, and beyond often end up dating women who are significantly younger than they are. Well, that's half the equation, right? That explains why the men go after the younger women, but it doesn't explain why the younger women are choosing the older men. And that's what he gets into next. The attraction some younger women feel toward older men is also easy to understand in psychological terms and as a basic need for security. When a 20-year-old woman looks at men her own age, 20s, right, she may often see emotional instability, uncertainty, immaturity. I would say immaturity could be like in capital letters and panic at the first sign of real difficulty. By contrast, a 45-year-old man who has already achieved something, developed emotional control, gained life experience, built a career, maybe bought property, can seem like a rock, a source of calm. A man who has already passed through youthful chaos and knows how to handle life. A man who can better make the woman feel what she wants to feel. Next, to a nervous peer with little more than vague ambitions and big dreams, an older man can look like a confident, established leader who knows how to solve problems. And then there are biological clocks. Men can often remain fertile well into old age. They can spend their youth chasing fun, career goals, and personal freedom. For women, however, biological time can matter much more when it comes to having children. After 40, female fertility declines significantly, and with each passing year, having a child can become more difficult. So when a woman is thinking seriously about building a family, a man's age may not always be the first thing she focuses on if she seems stable, capable, and ready. Again, can the man make the woman feel what she wants to feel? And the higher the probability of answering yes, the higher the probability of the woman choosing the man. It's really no more complicated than that. Just look at Robert De Niro and Al Pacino. Both became fathers at very advanced age after 70 with women much younger than themselves. Well, if you look at what these men are offering, look at the whole package. And, as far as what like the natural mindset goes, it's not hard to figure out, it's not hard to figure out, for the women that actually chose them, it's like, this man can make me feel what I want to feel. And so the answer is yes, I will marry you. That's really all it is. Examples like this are not exactly rare. Of course, a relationship between a 45-year-old man and a 20-year-old woman can look perfectly reasonable first. The man feels young again, desired, alive. The woman may enjoy the attention of a confident, established man who knows what he wants, earns well, does not behave like a broke, anxious college student, can also spoil her with expensive gifts. At the beginning, this kind of relationship can genuinely seem to work, but the first wave of emotion is not the whole story. The real test begins later. When the constant novelty wears off and two people have to live a normal, everyday life together for years. They have to deal with household responsibilities, habits, money, children, exhaustion, future plans, and the question of where they see themselves in 10 or 15 years. And that is where age starts to matter much more than many people would like to admit. So here he's talking about like the day-to-day grind that, aggregates little things over time, right? And so that's where he's thinking like, this is where it matters much more. The bigger the age gap, the higher the risk. That's not surprising. Based on thousands of couples came an uncomfortable conclusion for fans of large age gaps. The greater the age difference between partners, the higher the risk of separation. This is not about society judging them, as people online often like to say. People get used to almost anything. The bigger issue is that partners may begin to live at different rhythms. When a man approaches 50, he often seeks peace, stability, and predictability. He's already had his wild years, his experiments, his chaos. A 25-year-old woman, however, may only be entering the phase of life where she wants movement, new experiences, travel, social energy, and the feeling that everything is still ahead of her. For a few years, that difference can slowly erode the relationship. Researchers studying thousands of couples found a harsh pattern. The larger the age gap, the higher the likelihood of breaking up. Now, he's going to give us some numbers. When the age difference is around 5 years, 5 years. Now, I once saw a poll online in a Facebook group for LDS singles, and there's plenty of them out there. I can't remember which one it was, but there was a poll, and it was basically polling people on what age gap would you accept in a partner. And, the bulk of the distribution was gathered around 5 to 6 years. So when the age difference is around 5 years, the risk of separation is about 18%. At first glance, that may not seem dramatic. It's almost 1 in 5, by the way. 18% is almost about 1 in 5. So for every, the risk of separation is just going to be 1 in 5 people. But this is often where the first hidden cracks begin to appear. The partners may still be able to compromise, but a 5-year difference can already create a subtle gap in life experience and career stage. I'm not sure about this one. One partner may still be finding their footing and making early adult mistakes, while the other is already past that stage and may unconsciously take on the role of mentor. 5 years? I don't know. I think he's overgeneralizing here. I don't see that. I mean, the role of mentor is usually something you would get taken on. Oh, gosh. I mean, if it's like 10 years or 15 years, I can understand the role of mentor, because then it's more like a parent-child relationship, right? And so, if you got 5 years difference, I mean, you're not going to see yourself that way. So, yeah, I think he's overgeneralizing here. But now look what he says here. If the age gap reaches about 10 years, the risk of separation rises to 39%. So at 5 years, we were at 18%. Now at 30, and now it's at 10 years, it's 39%. So 5 years is almost 1 in 5. And now at 10 years, it's almost 2 in 5. This is where romantic illusions often begin to collide with reality. At this point, the difference is no longer just a number. It become a real mismatch in biological timing, social needs, emotional maturity, friend groups, cultural references, and even physical energy. Which, again, if you have the natural mindset, these are all things that matter to the natural man, the natural woman. They don't matter so much to the covenant man or the covenant woman, right? Not to say that if any of these things are important to you, you must have the natural mindset. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if you truly prioritize making and keeping sacred covenants above all else, then okay, you're gonna be able to accept a little bit of mismatch in one or more of these areas in order to make and keep that sacred covenant, because that's the covenant mindset. That's what's prioritized. Whereas the natural mindset prioritizes self. The natural mindset prioritizes these things that deal with this life and this world, and doesn't give doesn't give a rat's rear end about anything that might extend out into eternity. A 10-year gap may mean the partners grew up in different social worlds. They may not relate to the same problems, memories, trends, or expectations. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes that can actually be a good thing. And I just think it depends on the people that are involved in the relationship. So again, I think he's vastly over generalizing here. Finding common ground becomes harder. So because finding common ground becomes harder, we should avoid this area. Yeah, see that again, he's overgeneralizing. It's a natural mindset. It's about, well, if it doesn't naturally fit together, then we shouldn't try to force it. We shouldn't try to put it together. And I'm not really in favor of like forcing anything, but at the same time, love is a choice, and it's a choice you can make consciously. And this whole idea of being centered on self, that it has to fit you or it's not right for you. That's the part that I'm just like, yeah, I'm not really into that. I think some measure of fit is important, but I think too many people are just putting way too much emphasis on that aspect of fit, and they're ignoring other options, which frankly are just as or more important in the long run. Everyday conflicts can become more painful. It's harder for each partner to understand what the other's going through. But again, that doesn't make it impossible. And if marriages with an age gap of 20 years or more, the situation becomes more difficult. The risk of divorce can become extremely high, reaching up to 95% in some analyses. So it at 5 years, it's 1 in 5 chance of separation. At 10 years, it's almost 2 out of 5 chance of separation. And then when we go up to 20 years or more, it just skyrockets to being an almost certainty. Researchers suggest such relationships often face a major generational barrier. One partner may still be at the height of youth, full of energy, ambition, and the desire to actively change life. The other may be moving into a very difficult stage, wanting more peace, routine, and rest. Their life directions can begin pointing in opposite directions. At some point, neither passion nor financial stability can fully cover that gap forever. So, what gap is considered ideal? Researchers from Emory University offer a clear answer. The most stable and resilient relationships are often found among couples with an age difference of only 1 to 3 years. That's very interesting. That's very interesting. It basically says, you got to find someone who's about your age. And that's going to give you the best chance of staying together. Now, I think there's more that goes into that equation than just what's the difference between your ages. As I've been saying previously, a lot of success is determined by choices, and the choices that you choose on what you're going to prioritize are among the biggest. And all of this is just, again, probabilities based on people just doing what comes naturally, right? So of course, if you just do what comes naturally, then you're gonna have the best chances of staying together if you're with somebody that's most like you. And so 1 to 3 years, right? 1 to 3 years. I'm just like, duh. I mean, that's most like you. According to data, these couples tend to show the longest term stability, one of the lowest divorce rates, around 3%. The reason is simple but important. Couples with a small age gap are usually living through similar life stages at the same time. They face career challenges, personal crises, family planning, financial pressure, and social expectations in a more synchronized way. Their energy levels are more likely to match. Their ideas about the future are often more aligned because they grew up in similar cultural and social environments. They're more likely to understand each other's jokes, habits, references, music, films, trends, and worldviews. In simple terms, partners who are close in age do not have to constantly bend themselves to fit someone else's completely different life rhythm. They move through life at a similar pace. In other words, the work required to make the relationship work is at a minimum because the other person is very, 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 very much like you. That's really what that is. And so, where more work is required, of course, you're going to see a higher risk of separation because everyone's got their work threshold, right? There's only so much work that someone's willing to do or put into something based on what they get out of it. And, the more work that you're going to have to put in, the less chance there is of what you get out of it being worthwhile. And therefore, the higher chance that you're going to say, well, it's been fun. Thanks for the memories. See you later. I mean, it's not rocket science. That psychological synchronization may matter more than many people think. Can a relationship with a 15 or 20-year age gap still work? Yes, of course. No one is saying it's impossible, right? Again, he's talking about chances, which means he's talking about probability. People are different. Couples are different. There's no single formula that works for everyone. Two people the same age can divorce after 6 months, while a couple with a 20-year age difference may stay together for decades. And I think that right here, that's an important admission, right? It's all about choices, right? Does age really matter? Well, it matters only if you choose to make it matter, right? I go back to the, not the, but one of the lines from Shakespeare that I've heard quoted quite a bit from Hamlet. There's nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Yeah, it's just how you think about it is everything. And so, love is a choice. And so if you choose to put your covenant relationship with another person above everything else, then, that's a choice that you make. And you get what you get for making that choice. So here we're talking about, this guy here, he's talking about probabilities. He's from people who are just doing, following their natural tendencies. So, that's where he says research shows a general pattern. General pattern suggests the smaller the age gap, the better the statistical chances of long-term stability. In other words, yeah, you're more likely to stay together because you have less work to do to make the relationship work. Not because large age gap relationships are automatically fake or doomed, but because they're rarely simple. In other words, they require more work. These require more patience, more flexibility, more emotional maturity, more honest communication. Over time, physical attraction may fade, even after many years, but the age gap usually becomes more noticeable, not less. That's why relationships with a large age difference often look exciting from the outside. From the inside, they can be far more complicated than people imagine. So, yeah. I pretty much said all I want to say about this. I mean, in my mind, age is just a number. And I think that, what he's saying here about the different challenges that present with the age gap. So the bigger the age gap, the more of a challenge you have to make the relationship work. I don't disagree with that at all. But I just think it's just all a matter of choice. And, the covenant mindset is going to be not as concerned about that as the natural mindset is. The natural man, the natural woman will look at that and say, well, the larger the age gap, the more the more I may not be that interested. Right? At least the natural man. The natural woman, on the other hand, the women are all about feeling. So using emotional based logic, which we've talked about before here on this program, It's all about, does it make me feel good or does it make me feel not good? Does it make me feel what I want to feel? Does it make me not feel what I want to feel? And if it feels good or if it makes me feel what I want to feel, then I accept it. If it doesn't, reject it. That's just basic decision logic right there when you have an emotional decision base. Whereas men, on the other hand, make decisions with, or at least I'll say it this way, they're biologically hardwired to make decisions with intellectual logic. So, the matrix of acceptance or rejection is based on intellectual. So does it make sense? If it makes sense, we accept it. If it doesn't make sense, we reject it. It's the same decision logic. You're just using a different base of logic to make the decision with. So either way you look at it, the natural mindset is just going to be valuing what the natural man or the natural woman values. And so, the challenges that come with an age gap, it's going to be more difficult with that natural mindset, because the natural mindset is more likely to reject rather than accept. But the covenant mindset, was willing to say, hey, you know what? This kind of doesn't feel right according to my natural biological hardwiring, but if I can make and keep a sacred covenant, then maybe I should at least give it some consideration. Right? So it's all about choices. It all just comes down to choices. And so does age matter? I think it's just a number. And I think that's basically where that's at. So this is the part of the program where we would then, normally I would have like a guest that comes on. At least I'm still trying to. I have some guests actually that are going to be coming on the program soon. So yay! So we can have some like conversation about these sorts of things. But in absence of that, let's go ahead and read some of the comments here. Age gap relationships do and can work. My wife is 23 years older than me. So here's a man who married an older woman. I'm 45. It's all down to mutual respect, understanding, and the will to have a meaningful life. So, yeah, I get his point, right? His main point here is it's all about choice. I like that. Okay, yeah, emojis, got it. When my husband and I started dating, I was 19, he was 30. So here's a woman dating an older man. And the age difference here is 11 years. He was a very refreshing change from the heavy drinking, demanding party animals I had been dating. I had a job and lived on my own while he was a university student. Well, you would have thought that would be the other way around. Right? You'd think the 19-year-old would be the university student and the 30-year-old would be the one with the full-time job. But hey, if it works. I did not marry him for his money. Well, obviously not, since he didn't have any. He had a car loan and student loans. I had $150 in the bank. Last month, we celebrated our 59th wedding anniversary. I guess we beat the odds. Yes, you certainly did. Because again, it's all about choices, right? I go back to the story I shared earlier in the program about my great grandmother. She wasn't going fishing with my grandfather, to be, to be with the fish. She was there for my grandfather. She wanted to be with him. So it's just all about choices. Super story. Happy for you both. Yes, we are all happy for you both. Is it about years or percentages? I've always thought that aging might make differences in absolute years terms less significant. I'm 5 years older than my wife. When I was 21, she would have been 16. Okay, first of all, 21 minus 16 is, okay, yeah, that actually is 5. Never mind. Remember, my brain off. I was like, wait, that's not 5. Yeah, it actually is 5. And we might have been at very different stages of maturity, but I'm 72. My wife is 67. The age difference doesn't seem so significant. Right. So here the guy was saying that 18% risk of separation is substantial. And, here's one case, obviously from the 82% that said, yeah, well, okay. Yeah, not so much. And I agree with this. Like, this is actually right, I think. It's a choice, right? And when you get up to this age, like a 5-year gap is not going to be a big deal because you're both old fogies. So, yeah, there we go. So, more of that. This article says 1 to 3 years. Now you don't have to read this trash. Okay. Half your age plus 7 is a great rule of thumb, in my opinion. Age differences mean less when you're older. Yes, that is true. Like the older you get, the differences in the ages don't matter. And see, that's the thing about the covenant mindset is that when you prioritize keeping sacred covenants above all else, right? Having youth as a value only matters when youth is available, right? If you're both old together, what does it matter that the natural man still wants a younger woman? Because you're both old together, right? And if you have the covenant mindset, then you're placing your covenant above everything else. And if you've been doing that for a while, I mean, the longer you do that, the more you tend to reject that natural mindset and adopt the covenant mindset, learn to love people for who they really are, and connect on that level. So, yeah, kudos. Differences mean less when you're older. It completely depends on the couple. My dad and stepmom had a 16-year gap between them, except for the very end, about 2 years. They had a passionate, loving relationship. So apparently they eventually did separate. He died 14 years ago after a 25-plus year adventure together. Oh, so they weren't like separated by choice. They were separated by death. She still mourns him. Unfortunately, that's a sad reality of a May-December romance, regardless of your dedication to fitness health. Father Time is a relentless taskmaster who never loses. If Chuck Norris can't beat the Grim Reaper, it can't be done. It's all about choices and priorities, confidence and competence versus youth and vitality. Sometimes they coincide, but frequently these qualities manifest at different places on the arc of a lifetime. Another way of putting it, quality versus quantity. I don't know if I look at it in terms of quality versus quantity. I do agree about the point about choices and priorities, because that love is a choice. And what do you prioritize? Well, the covenant mindset means you prioritize keeping sacred covenants. Growing old together is a primary goal. Then the May-December romance, regardless of which gender is the senior partner, is a failed proposition. Here's another comment. A 10-year gap may mean the partners grew up in different social worlds or generational divides, X versus millennial, etc. See what somebody had to say here. I totally agree with this. Said from the perspective of an older Gen Xer, 2+ decades into marriage with a younger Gen Xer by 11 years. In fact, now that I think about it, my wife's social and work friend circles are populated entirely by Gen Xers and older, even though she's only a couple years older than the millennial generation. To me, the gulf with generations is shallow. The gulf within generations is shallow, but between generations, particularly Gen X, the last humans in the world and in time to come of age in an all-analog world, and millennials, the first to come of age in an entirely digital one, is a chasm growing only deeper with time. Interesting. I may or may not agree with that. I'm undecided about that. Let's see what this comment says. The distance between generations grows. Z is the first generation to grow up with digital in hand. They live in a different geography. And Alpha will be the first generation to grow up with AI. I suspect Beta will be the first to grow up with CBI. Each change makes the chasm seem larger. Okay, I can see that perspective. Seems oversimplified, resulting in a lack of nuance. Like other commenters have already brought up, there's a big difference between a 40-year-old guy and a 20-year wife, and a 60-year guy with a 40-year-old wife. Most women seem to settle down around age 30. So as a guy, if you just avoid anyone under 30, a relationship can work out regardless of your own age. That's an interesting comment. Interesting read. In the past 18 months, I've dated 3 younger ladies, one at 60, Younger? Okay, you got 66 went 70. I spend most time and effort with the 70-year-old one. We mesh well. I'm 83 and a widower. My wife dying 2 years ago after a 60-year marriage. So I wonder what the age gap is with this guy with his wife, because they were together for 60 years. I wonder how that meshes up with the data that we're looking at in the article. At 51, happily married to my lovely wife. It's half my age for a couple of years now, and life's sweet. Don't let metrics or statistics cloud your judgment on emotions, or you might just be missing out on something really good. I agree. I agree to a large extent, actually, with this comment. It's all about choices, right? So, I mean, you got to look at the whole package. Age isn't the whole thing. And since age, in my opinion, age is just a number. So if the other things that are really important to emotional stability, and you see those things there, then yeah, I mean, don't base it on just don't use one variable to decide the entire equation. I guess is a good way to say it. Birth order might have an effect. By having an older brother who had even older friends meant I was exposed from an early age to much older boys and men, felt extremely comfortable riding the coattails of the older generation, just like my first husband. My current husband is well over a decade my senior. He's actually my physician. Oh, gives new meaning to the phrase playing doctor. Most of our friends are a decade or more older than me. It's worth the kids. He waited past retirement age to quit work. I was on the young side. And he finally did retire, and now his mounting physical cognitive problems give me eerie deja vu feelings from watching my elderly dad decline. I would say that was not what I expected and is a downside of his age gap. I feel too young to have another elderly father, but we did wonderful things together. It was just not enough time. When you find a soulmate, you always wish for more time. That's true regardless of what the age, whatever age gap you have. If you find somebody that works for you and you're just, blissfully happy, you never have enough time, right? Which is why, it's a good thing that marriage is eternal, because then you've got eternity. I think it all depends on the maturity of the people. Just because you're close on age does not mean it will work with ease. Personally, I would prefer an older, more mature man. Yeah, don't know what to say about that. Can't say anything more, I guess. Potential confounders, those who are ready to marry at a young age, are probably more emotionally mature and well placed in society. They're already a better bet. A woman who can't see potential and invests in a poor person her own age maybe has that loser trait of being unable to postpone rewards for a bigger reward. Okay, again, I think you're making the same mistake that the author of the article is making, and that's you're overgeneralizing. High vitality men might be better matched with someone younger who can keep up with them. Maybe. I don't know. It all depends on the specific people involved. Couples with a small age gap are usually living through similar life stages. This is exactly the case with my second wife and I. We feel like we were playing for the same team and have shared many life experiences even before we got together. It's also ensured that we feel like best friends in our marriage together. Okay, that's a legitimate perspective. I think I think there's a lot of truth to that. At the same time, I don't think like you have to have that in order to be best friends. If you have it, it works for you, great. But again, I think it all just comes down to choices and what you choose and where you choose to place your priorities. 5-year difference can already create a subtle gap. This is eye-opening, something I only realized with my first wife in hindsight. She was only 6 years older than I was. But as our relationship and marriage went on, the disparity between our worldviews became a lot more stark. So here's somebody who's saying, yeah, I actually did experience that. So it's hard for me to poo-poo people's actual life experience. So yeah, I got to take that into consideration. The now defunct 538 polling company had an interesting poll they did about age gaps in couples. It used to be available as an archive. You might still be able to find. They found a typical gap of the man 2.3 years older. No big shock there. was interesting was the distribution chart. It was a very sharp peak. The numbers fell off a cliff when the man was 10 years older or the woman was 5 years older. I also found the woman was older, around 20% of couples, but this was mostly very small gaps. That's very insightful. I'd like to take a look at that. I wish I had that to take a look at. That would be very interesting. Take a look at. Maybe I can go look for it and see if I can bring it up on another future segment of the world of Ted. Was this a blog about love and romance or a prompt to visit a popular song and revise the lyrics? Maybe both, because I did it my way. Okay. I think a scientific approach to age gap will not work if the subject is not more precisely defined. The question is not how a growing age gap works over a time span. The question is under which circumstances the relationship shall work. Some conditions like children, working balance of both partners, separate or joint hobbies, time spent together, etc. An age gap of 20 years may be ideal for a certain lifespan, but becomes burdensome after. An age gap of 10 years may work a lifelong perfect, but the surviving partner will have pain the years alone. I think there are multiple factors to be considered, and it's impossible to come to a generalized answer. I agree with that. What might work under certain premises might be a burden under slightly different ones. It's obvious that young men lack in many, if not most cases, the maturity to understand basic needs of their partners. And if a young woman wants more than a passionate relationship, she should know that her same age partner may not be able to fulfill that wish. I think that's a legitimate. It makes some good points there. I don't think I can say anything more about that. I agree with science. I should read that. And I'm thinking about that scene from Nacho Libre. You only hate me because I believe in science. Why do you hate me? Because I believe in science. And then he dunks a guy in a bowl of water, like baptize him. Felicitaciones. Here's another comment. I agree with science that most people want to date someone within a couple years difference. I disagree. Most 45-year-old men don't want to date women their own age. When I was in my 40s and dating for 1 to 2 years, I mostly dated men within 5 years older or more often younger. When I was in my early 20s, I only considered men near my own age. None of my friends ever dated significantly older men. Okay. In marriages with an age gap of 20 years or more, the situation becomes much more difficult. The risk of divorce or separation can become extremely high, reaching up to 95%. Then again, my late husband and I were 21 years apart in age, and we got along very well. Now I'm old and fat, so I just aged out of relationships. 21 years apart. And they got along just fine. So, yeah, again, it all comes down to choices. That's why successful men in their 40s, 50s, beyond end up dating women who are significantly younger than they are. And when they're in their 60s, 70s, and beyond, the younger woman makes a good nurse and purse. Nurse and purse. Never heard that expression before, but I like it. Nurse and purse. Yeah, younger, more energetic, and physically attractive, since those of us 45 and up are all fat, lethargic old hags. Well, I don't think all of us over 45 are fat, lethargic old hags, but I kind of noticed the other day. I mean, I noticed going to the recent DC Singles Conference. Majority of people are not exactly thin. Let's say it that way. So I don't know that they're lethargic old hags. But there was a lot of love handles hanging around. Chris says, my wife was 45. This is honestly annoying me. I just want one side to, not the other. My wife is 15 years older when we met, and we had 50 extraordinary blissful years together. Scientists cannot infer anything about relationships. Relationships determines subjective opinion, which changes on a minute-by-minute basis. Yeah, I mean, what we're talking about here, that's why we're talking about probabilities. Because you're dealing with I was about to say, you're dealing with probabilities because you're doing social science. It's not necessarily true. But, I mean, because you deal with, there's a whole, like in the hard sciences, there's a lot of probability there as well. But you're dealing with human beings and people who are making choices. I mean, you're doing a lot more with probability, and you need a more probabilistic mindset when you're dealing with that. And that's all we're talking about here, probabilities. So it just all depends on choices. And it looks like we're trying to get just the one side to come up. The last comment here. As soon as the honeymoon phase wears out, it all comes down to power dynamics. As long as the power structure is preserved, all age gap is fine. Okay, well, there's somebody who's very pessimistic about the love aspect of marriage. Maybe you had some poor experiences with that, and that's clouded your perspective. I don't know. But yeah, so basically it's got to be it, folks. So interesting little article. As I said, in future episodes of Join the Journey Radio, we're going to have like people on the program, and we can actually have discussions about this. It's not just me sharing my thoughts about what I'm reading here in the article, but it's also like other people chiming in. We have a larger conversation. I'm looking forward to that. I am very much looking forward to that. So hope you are too, but that's all we have for this episode of Join the Journey Radio. So thank you all for your participation today. Let's check the chat, see if anything's going on with the chat, and don't see anything with the chat. So, that's pretty much all she wrote, folks. Thanks everyone for joining in today. If you have something you'd like to say about what we've discussed today, please leave a comment down below. If you have a topic or a question that you would like us to see addressed on a future episode of Join the Journey Radio, please leave a comment down below the video. And if you have something that you would like us to help with you specifically, and how the challenges that you're facing with LDS singles life, then, again, leave a comment down below, or go to our website, jointhejourneyradio.com, and there you can find on the contact page a form that you can fill out and send in if you don't want the whole world reading about your comment. So we love introverts as much as we love the extroverts. As always, don't forget to like, share, subscribe our content so that the algorithms push more of our content out to help more and more Latter-day singles everywhere. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got. So again, it's your host reminding you, as always, there is joy to be had all along your journey. So take that joy and journey on.
You and I have witnessed many things, but nothing as bodacious as what just happened.
Check it out! Look at I'm in really bad shape. Come on, please, please.
Bob.
Give me. I need.
My God, pull yourself together!
I get to lay in a bed by myself all of my life. It's fantastic.
You're killing me, Smalls!
Truly, you have a dizzying intellect.
Wait till I get going! Where was I?
Suck it!
Run away!
Bye-bye, boys!
Have fun storming the castle!
Think it'll work?
It would take a miracle.
Bye-bye!
Yeah, we did it. Come on, give me some of that. Yeah! Woohoo! I will see you cats on the flip-flop later.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.